What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to episode, I'm not even sure what episode this is, of The Knife Guy. If you are new to my channel, I like to do knife reviews, knife overviews, unboxings, discussion topics. On Saturdays, I have a series called Quest for the Perfect Budget Knife, and on Sundays, I do this series, and that's The Knife Guy. What's The Knife Guy? Well, basically, whether you're new to the knife world or whether you are a veteran to the knife world, I'm somewhere in between. We all have our own unique paths that we take, as we discover things that we like, whether they're in the budget category or the super expensive category, mid-tex, customs, etc., etc. You'll find that, as you meet people, whether it's online or in person, you'll find that while all of our paths are unique, these paths at some point intersect, and we share specific experiences. There are certain common experiences that we all share, and that's what this series is dedicated to, is talking about those shared experiences amongst all us knife guys and gals. What I like to do is I like to lay a bunch of knives out that I am either about to review on my channel or have already reviewed. Some are mine and some are lent to me by my generous viewers. But I like to just pick them up and flip them and just talk about stuff. Just give you something to sit back and enjoy. If there's anything you see on here that you really like and it's in the budget category, not a custom knife, we have a few mid-tex and customs out here which I can't provide links for, but I do have Amazon affiliate links for a lot of this stuff, so you can, if you want to, you can check the description and pick yourself up, for example, a Rat 1 and D2 or the coveted Rainbow Mermaid knife. I got links for some of the tools that I use, including my Wea bit selector and a really good driver and some calipers and some other things that are inexpensive and very helpful, so you can pick some of those up for yourself if you'd like. Anyways, so what are we talking about today? Well, I've done an episode talking about, becoming, after a while, I think we all experience this a little bit. For some of us it's more extreme than others, but especially for people who kind of, get into this knife world and then, that's cool, I never noticed that, Jeff. It's awesome. Oh my gosh, this is a Zebra knife. I literally did not notice this when I unboxed it the other day. That's cool. But people who kind of get into the forums, the more knowledge you gain, the more, you develop a certain level of arrogance. For some people it's less, for some people it's more. I definitely went through that, thinking that because I was constantly in and out of the forums, this is years ago, before I started the channel, that I was more knowledgeable, And the forums, there's a lot of really good information. There's also some just straight up terrible information. You don't always know who you're getting the information from and how it's even applicable to you, right? I always forget this is a left-handed Umnumzan. So you might become, without realizing it, a little bit of an elitist. And it's important to remember, to catch yourself. And I've had to do this, as one of my earliest episodes was talking about, taking a step back and realizing, are you giving this information to this person because you want to help them, or are you stroking your own ego? 9 times out of 10 for me, I was stroking my own ego, and it took me a while to realize, like, this person is just looking for information to help them, make a choice, they don't, a lot of times it wasn't even somebody who was interested in knives at all. I just wanted to show off how much I knew. Well, that's not helpful at all. And the reason that I started this channel is because I found that I actually enjoy sharing my opinions, and it's fun to handle knives and talk about knives with people who like knives, but there's an enormous amount of joy that I get from helping someone, into this world and making legitimately good suggestions, and explaining reasons why those, suggestions might benefit them, instead of just, cannon blasting them with a whole bunch of elitist information that doesn't do them any good. It's just for the sake of your own ego. We've talked about this before. What I have not talked about is the opposite end of the perspective, and it happens way more online than it does in person. Is when you are dealing with someone who is obviously a knife elitist. In my comment section, all the time, there's always somebody down there who's a self-proclaimed elitist, Some of them might be, some of them might not be, but that's the thing, is that, like, there's no one person who's experienced enough of every single knife design out there, every blade shape, every maker, every material, and has used all of these, an inconceivable number of things in an inconceivable number of circumstances, to be able to tell you definitively, and this includes me, I can't give you this information either, to be able to tell you definitively whether or not something is right or wrong for that given thing. It's just not, but that's the thing. We deal with these people nonetheless, and they're very arrogant, nose in the air. Anything that you say is stupid, and anything that they say is not to be questioned. Now, like I said, I myself have done this before. It's easy. It's really easy to take that role behind a keyboard. Like I said, there's people, you don't have to look too far to find somebody in my comment section who's doing this. But I can't sit here on a high horse and pretend that I haven't done it myself. So dealing with these people, truthfully, you guys don't have to sit here and watch this for 15, 20 minutes, however long it's going to be, to hear the answer. The best thing you can do is just ignore them. 100% of the time, the best thing you can do is just ignore them, or if you don't realize at first that somebody is patronizing you, and then you kind of realize it in the middle, because a lot of times, these people are like, they come in and it's kind of, it's a lure, and you think that it's information that they're giving you to benefit you, and then you realize halfway through the conversation, oh, this person wants me to worship them. There's the worst thing you can do. Engaging with them to be polite is always okay, but the worst thing you can do is, once you figure it out, to argue with them, to let your own ego take over. Truthfully, the vast majority of the knife community, we're all great people. We all realize, I was just talking with Slicey Dicey about this. We all know that we have differences. Two guys who are 20 years into buying, selling, trading, collecting, using, and they're outside legitimately using their knives, will likely develop, while they might share certain similar experiences, which is what this series is based off of. They will likely end up as two completely different people with two completely different set of tastes. Now, if they're like most of the knife community, they'll still get along, we all come from different walks of life and enjoy different things, have different, we have different political views, different religious views, different views of the world all the way around. And just the fact that we all like knives, even if we all don't like the same knives, generally keeps us all interacting with each other in a positive way. And that's great. But you have a few people who lose sight of that, and they jump in and they're like, this isn't about all of us. It's about me and about how much I know. Look at me. Those people are there. And you people who are self-aware and like, oh crap, he's talking about me. Yeah, I'm talking about you, but remember, I'm also trying to come at this from the perspective of, I can't preach because I have done this before, and I've found a way to control. I can't say I'm not tempted to I'm going to tell this guy how it is. I'm going to show him how much I know. Of course, we're all tempted to do that if you feel really confident about what you're talking about. What's more important is your ability to shut that crap down, because it's not going to help anybody. If you stand back in a situation and think, what's this about? Is this about finding resolve that's beneficial for everybody? Or is it about stroking my ego? If you are very self-aware and you're able to realize, it's more about my ego, then the only thing to do is just to stop talking, And you can't control the people who, want to tell you, hey, listen, the Umnum's on, everybody worships it, but in my experience, and I've got blah, 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 insert whatever level of experience that anybody could say, anybody can say anything typing up, right? Well, Chris Reeve doesn't use bearings. And in my experience, bearings are the best because blah, blah, deedly doot dee. He also doesn't use a traditional steel lock bar insert. He uses the ceramic, the ceramic ball surface, and it doesn't have this. He doesn't have the fidgety action. It's also, he should move to 20 CV. He's still using S35VN. And by the way, I know, now I believe it's Chris Reeves' son and his wife that are running Reeves knives. There's a lot of design elements, that aren't great. He uses that hollow ground setup, and, it's a little bit thick behind the edge, and it's not the most... Listen, for those of you who don't know, the problem with what I just said there, and it's something that you'll hear a lot about a knife in the same caliber as this Umnumzan. The problem is that that's coming from a specific person's perspective, and that person... here's what I heard. I heard that person is biased towards bearings, that person is biased towards 20 CV, gave no information about why 20 CV would be better in this. What's he talking about? For the price, for the geometry, for the how the edge is done at the end, the grind. He just gave no information there. He just automatically said that 20 CV, he would prefer it because we're at this evolutionary point in the knife world where makers that are making things in this price range should just collectively move to 20 CV, which is not the case. This is a hypothetical situation, and then, he wants this better fidget factor, I guess. He wants a steel lock bar insert. This is an argument that you might hear, but that doesn't necessarily make that person right. Just because they're talking about a lot of things that sound like they know what they're talking about, and it sort of also fits into, with what people seem to be conforming with. I love titanium frame locks that are on bearings, that have steel lock bar inserts, that are in 20 CV steel. Does that mean it's the best for every circumstance? And unless you think that way, you're wrong? No, definitely not. There's different reasons for different things. And I think that what's better is to realize that there are good designs and bad designs, surely, and there are knives that are overpriced and knives that are not overpriced. So what do I think about the Umnumzan and Chris Reeve knives? Are they worth the money? That's up to the individual. Nobody is right or wrong there, no matter how insistent somebody is. I could be in a room, just on one side, and 1,000 people could be on the other saying, Chris Reeve knives are overpriced and you're dumb for liking them. That's my world every day. The only convenience I have is being I'm safe behind a camera and not in a room where people can throw vegetables at me. But yeah, that's fine with me. I don't care how many people oppose me. I like them. If you see the value in it, it's only up to you. Don't let some elitist jerk online tell you that you're wrong for liking that, because he thinks they're overpriced because the knife does not conform to the way that he thinks and what he expects from every individual knife. Even though the person giving you that information has a channel that's almost entirely based on that. I try to tell people, I'm not trying to bend you to think exactly like me. I'm just trying to say, open your mind. Here's what I think, but you should always go listen to other people. It doesn't change the fact that we will forever have to deal with these people. Perhaps even more, even above that in terms of importance is understanding that, trolls are one thing, but elitists are not trolls. A lot of times somebody who's an elitist who realizes they might be outmatched in a conversation will turn into a fake troll to convince everybody I was just joking around trying to get you all riled up and I was successful. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You thought you were right and you weren't 100% sure exactly how to deal with the opposition once you bit off more than you could chew. But is proving that person wrong, the most important thing? No, I think stepping back from it and realizing you're dealing with somebody who it's very unlikely they're going to go, you know what? I see your point. I renounce my ways and I will forever leave this land, relinquishing the plague that I have bestowed upon it. Very unlikely. It's a dumpster fire. A lot of people their pride and their ego, and I've been this person before. It gets the best of them and they get defensive and then they freak out and they either pretend that they were just trying to get everybody riled up and they pretend laugh, and inside they probably are a little hurt, but it's just chaos. It doesn't matter. Realizing that they are a natural part of the internet. The internet is full of this kind of stuff. It doesn't matter if you're into Beanie Babies or pocket knives. All these little niches. You have people who really care about the subject at hand and really care about spreading what they perceive to be good information that benefits people. And then you have a select amount of people who, really just want everybody to know how much more they know about the subject at hand, whether they're being honest or not. If they actually do know more, that's great, but if they're giving the information for the wrong reasons, then the main focus of their topic is their ego and not what this person who they're trying to inform, or they think they're trying to inform, what they do with that information. It's for the wrong reasons. Understanding that these people are a natural part of the internet, of my comment section, of Slicey Dicey's comment section, of Nick Shabazz's comment section, of Nut and Fancy's comment section, of Jim Skelton's comment section. They're a natural part. It's part of a big ecosystem, and they're just gonna be there. You can't do anything. Fighting off that one elitist and combating him or her, it just doesn't do you any good. If you're able to spot it, it's best just let him sit there. There's nothing funnier than somebody who's left an elitist comment amidst a whole crowd of people who knows better and no one engages with that person. There is nothing funnier to me than when you see that comment, some guy leaves a book of information and you can tell the more he types, the more he thinks it looks really, informative and wow, look how intelligent he is. He leaves his big long book, but you can see as he's typing, he's getting more and more and more into his own ego. And then you look, how long ago is this comment left? 2 months. No comments, no likes, no dislikes. That is the funniest thing to me, because probably for days that person went back and checked. Did somebody interact with my comment? Did anybody think that I was smart or cool? Oh man, but it hardly ever happens. Usually they're able to, get one person to interact, either successfully in a way that allows them to stroke their own ego, or it starts up an argument and the person who left the comment in the first place was so egotistical they couldn't help but argue, and the person who's arguing with them is also egotistical, and then dumpster fire, dumpster fire, dumpster fire. It's awful. Me doing an episode on this is not going to change. I don't expect to change the flow of how that works in my comment section or anywhere on the internet. You can't deal with it. But if I can help anybody, if my voice enters, if this video gets 1,000 views and only 5 of you, the next time you run into somebody like this, my voice is in the back of your mind going, just leave it alone. Then great, just slowing the creep of toxicity in this community just a little bit is something that would make me happy. We can't completely stamp it out, but I think we can all do a little bit better job of, including myself, recognizing, when somebody is just kind of being an elitist jerk and it's not worth interacting with them. Easier said than done, but this is definitely something. I mean, if you're new, especially if you're new and you jump into the forums, that was a mistake that I made, is I got all my information from the forums. There are some great people there, but there are some heavily egotistical people on the forums. What forum? I'm not going to name a specific forum. People know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that is Ego City. And you don't know where you're getting the information from. So with anything, and most of you guys know this. For most of you, this is just a nod in agreement episode, right? You guys are already aware of this. But for the people who don't know, always get your information from more than one source. I have on many occasions gotten all the information I thought I needed from one source and ended up actually ultimately making a purchase based on that and been very, very disappointed, both in terms of what the knife was made out of and the performance, because it was just based on some elitist jerk's opinion and it was convincing, and I was new and I didn't understand, and that's not helpful, and it's also just poisonous to go back and forth and fight with these people, So spread the love, spread the positivity anywhere you can. Sometimes just swallow your own pride and go, oh, wow, that's great. Thanks for giving me that information. And then you just leave, knowing that it wasn't good information, but you got out of it, right? And then hopefully, like me, those people eventually become a little more self-aware and are able to step back and swallow their pride, when they really don't want to. And maybe at some point, they get better. I'd like to think I'm better, but I know sometimes my ego comes out a little bit in these videos. But in any case, I hope this video was at least mildly entertaining. I hope you guys kind of were able to understand where I was coming from there. If you enjoyed this video in any way, shape, or form, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.